And then he continued. When he says to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, ذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى. He says, go to Pharaoh, indeed he has transgressed the limits. He has transgressed all bounds. And what did Musa say? When Allah says this to Musa, what did he say? He says, قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. He says, oh my Lord, expand my chest. You know, when you stress, then the burden becomes, your chest begins to tighten up on you. You know, so Musa, he says, رب اشرح لي صدري. Oh Allah, expand my chest, ease the pressure off me, please. He says, right? وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي, and straighten my my actions. He says, وَيَسِّرْ وَحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِنْ لِسَانِي. He says, and loosen the knot from my tongue. Why did Musa say this? Huh? He had a speech impairment. He used to stutter and so on. Yeah? He wasn't an eloquent speaker. He says, وَحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِنْ لِسَانِي. Loosen this knot from my tongue. يَفْقَهُوا قَوْلِي. He says, and let the people understand my speech and what I'm trying to convey here. And we know, we won't go into that, but we know that Allah, and I respond to his dua and gave him his brother Harun to be his support. His support, his companion, and he's also a Nabi. He's a prophet. Harun was a prophet, but he was not a messenger. Musa was what? Huh? He was a prophet and a messenger. Harun was a prophet, and Musa was a prophet and a messenger. The law was sent to, given to Musa, and Harun helped him to convey it to Pharaoh, right? And when they went to Pharaoh, alaykum salam, when he went to Pharaoh and said to him, "Let my Lord has commanded you to let my people go," what did Pharaoh say? In brief, we know the whole story. What did he say? He says what? فَأَشَّرَ فَنَادَى فَقَالَ أَنَّ رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى. He says, he gathered the people around, all his people, and he says, أَنَّ رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى. Am I not your Lord the Most High? Do you have any other gods beside me? The Mufassirun, the scholars who explain the Quran, they said that when Pharaoh, when he says this, when he makes this statement, "Anna rabbukumul a'la," Shaitan, he said, Shaitan, for the benefit of the sisters, because they might call hear me when I'm over there. Shaitan, he said, "Are you serious? Are you for real? Indeed, you have transgressed all bounds." Shaitan says this. Because Shaitan, when Shaitan addresses Allah, what does he say? How does he address Allah? Huh? Rabbi. He says, "My Lord." So Shaitan knows that Allah is Rabbil Alameen. Huh? So when he was asking Allah for permission to test Ayub, Job, you know the story of Job, when Job lost his family and his wealth and everything, and when he was asking Allah for permission to test Ayub, he says, "Rabbi, my Lord, grant me permission that I may test your slave." Huh? So he knows that Allah is Rabbil Alameen. Shaitan knows that. But Pharaoh, he says, what? I am your Lord the Most High. When he said that, Satan said, whoa. He said, no. This is indeed, you have transgressed the limits. So because of this, the scholars, they say, Pharaoh is the greatest of tyrants ever lived. Worse than Shaitan. Because Shaitan never said that. Despite of all the other things he did, he knows his place. You understand? Do you know that when Shaitan calls you to commit the sin, like when he calls you and say, look at sister right there, and you do it. Once you do it, what he does? When Shaitan calls you to commit a sin, and you commit that sin, what do Shaitan do immediately after that? Huh? How he makes you feel guilty? He says, the minute you do it, he comes back and he says to you, man, look at you. Say you a Muslim. You ain't nothing but a fake. You a fraud. You know what I'm saying? You know you ain't got no business doing that. You know the Quran says you shouldn't do that. You know the Hadith says you shouldn't do that. Stop for Allah. Stop for, and that's what he says. And then the soul will begin to feel remorse. And you begin to feel bad. Huh? And then what he says? He says, إِنِّي بَرِيءٌ مِّمَّا تُشْرِكُونَ. Indeed, I am free from that which you have just done. He called you to do that act. And then when you commit it, he says, indeed, I am free from that action. I ain't got nothing to do with it. You on your own. Stop for the law. And then he says, إِنِّي أَخَافُ اللَّهِ. Indeed, I fear Allah. That's what he says. It's like a joke, isn't it? He calls you and he says, yo, do that. And when you do it, he says, stop for Allah. Look at what you just done. You a Muslim? Stop for Allah. He says, إِنِّي أَخَافُ اللَّهِ. I fear Allah. You don't fear Allah. That's what he does. He plays games. So you have to know him. But you have to know your enemy. That's the very first thing. Know your enemy, and then after knowing him, what's the next move? What is the heart of warfare? Huh? If a country is going to invade another country, you think they just run up in there like that? Or do they have some kind of prerequisite that they do? Something before that? What? Huh? You have to... Okay, I'll bring it back down to your level. When you're going to do an exam in here, do you just come here and sit and do the exam, or do you revise? You study, right? It's simple. So, it's the same thing. You're going to attack someone, you have to learn about them, learn their strategy, learn the arm, their weapons, the weaponry which they use. When a boxer is going to go and fight, what he does? He's going to have a fight tomorrow night with Blase. What he does? He got to watch that tape with Blase and learn about, oh, so he's got a good left. Oh, he's got a right. Okay, he ain't got no left. Oh, he ain't got, learn about him, and then, so you know how to, so it's the same thing. Learn who your enemy is, and we know, we ain't even got to do no deep research because Allah's already told us who our enemy is. Who is he? Shaitan. So we know who he is. So now the next move is to do what? Learn his tricks. Simple. Learn his tricks. And it is simple. The scholars, Imam Ghazali, rahimahullah, he says that Shaitan, he only calls you to that which you are already inclined. What does that mean? One of the tricks of Shaitan is that, and why he succeeds, still almost 100% of the time, is that he only calls you to that which you are already inclined. What does that mean?
Soul wants it.
Huh?
The soul wants it. Enough.
It already desired this thing, right? It's easy for him when he does that. So you see, Shaitan, he's smart. So Shaitan calls you to that which you are already inclined because it's easy for him. Do you understand? He says to the homosexual, look at that guy right there because he's inclined that way. He says to you, look at the girl right there because you're inclined that way. That's how he works. So you have to learn him, learn his weapon, learn his trickery. And once you've learned that, then you know how to avoid, duck and dive and get around him. Do you understand? What you have to understand is that this here is a constant battle. From birth till what? Till death. It's not, it ain't never going to stop. So if you think that when you come to Islam, your worries is over, you got another thing coming because it's only just begun. And that's the truth. You understand what I'm saying? This is, anyone who chose this way of life, you have chosen a part of difficulty, especially in this environment where everywhere you look is kufr. It's difficult, it's hard. So if you ain't ready for this, then you better, like they say, if you can't take the heat, get out the kitchen. And this is for real. Do you understand? This is hardship. But it calls for sacrifice. You have to be willing to give up something in order to get something. That's how it works. You can't have it all.